Hello and welcome to the Hoosier Football Tailgate here on the Believe Network. I am Coach Shannon Griffith. Thanks for joining us here on this Thursday evening, 48 hours prior to the kickoff of the Indiana Hoosiers versus the Akron Zips. Couple quick house cleaning items here. First, number one, if you are watching us on YouTube, if you could hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell to get notified when we drop videos here on Hoosier Football Tailgate. Greatly appreciate that. If you could also head on over to Apple Podcasts as well, give us a subscribe there, and on Spotify, provide a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts. That just helps us get things off the ground in a positive way, and we get more and more listeners to know where we're at so they can get the true source of Indiana football right here on Hoosier Football Tailgate. Other thing is, this week, pleased to announce that Bet Online is joining us as a sponsorship here on Hoosier Football Tailgate. They are the number one information source for all things sports wagering, info, up to the minute stats, news, scores, you name it, they've got it on their website. That is Bet Online AG. And here's kind of a little breakdown of their website as it pertains on a desktop, but they do have an app, but you can get all that. I think I looked up earlier, and the Hoosiers were actually a 17-point favorite over the Akron Zips, and I think the over-under was 46. So the Bet Online AG is good for that last game odds, spreads, totals, and all that good stuff. If you head to their website today, use your mobile device and get into the action. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, and you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Okay, back to the nitty gritty of this week, Akron Zips. Tonight, we're going to do some breakdowns of statistics as usual, talk about some of the things in the video coach's room, as well as Griff's keys to victory. We're also going to have coming on here in just a little bit, Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal Gazette will join us. We'll talk a little bit about the Louisville game and get a little bit of his insights of that, as well as what he thinks is going to take for IU to get a victory this Saturday against the Akron Zips. So stay tuned for that. We'll also talk a little bit at the end as well. We'll talk a little bit about Taven Jackson's performance, what it's going to take Saturday, because when you're playing a team from the Mid-American Conference, they are coming in with the chip on their shoulder. Having coached in that league, there's a lot of good teams, a lot of good players, and IU will have to play a top-notch game, because if they give this Akron team any hope at all, they're going to be in for a dogfight on Saturday evening. So IU is going to have to play their best game of the year and get themselves in a position, because like I said, after this week, you're right into the conference, and it's week in, week out. It's a tough haul the rest of the Big Ten schedule, because after this game, they head to Maryland to play the Maryland Terps, who are pretty darn good this year. So focus right now to get themselves to 2-2, get this W against Akron, but more importantly, play a game of 60-minute football on both sides of the ball, because that's what they're going to need to get this victory. Well, stay right tuned to us right here on the Hoosier Football Network, on the Believe Network. Coming up, we're going to have Dylan Sinn join us from the Fort Wayne Journal Gazette and get all his take on the Hoosiers and the Zips right after this message. On the Believe Network, now joining me from the Journal Gazette is Mr. Dylan Sinn. Dylan, thanks for coming on here tonight and talk a little bit about these Hoosiers. What was your take on the Louisville contest?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tale of two halves. Obviously, Tom Allen said that after the game they have to play a full 60 minutes, and they simply didn't do it against Louisville. They came out and they were flat at the start of the game, and Taven Jackson said that was they were flat. The players played conservatively, to use Jackson's word, and he said basically they play in the second half like they did. They need to play the entire game like they did the second half. And the second half was much better. They moved the football. They locked down on defense and shut down what is a pretty good offense, it seems like. And then obviously the play of the game was that play on fourth down at the goal line where Indiana has a chance to tie the game. They run up the middle and they don't get it. So it was not the game Indiana wanted, but the second half you could kind of see the vision of where this team could go, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was a tale of two halves, is like you said. And first half, they were on both sides of the ball, not very good.
No.
Offensively, I thought they were conservative at times, and I get that a little bit with the new quarterback in the fray. But I did think the second half they made some great adjustments. Was able to put themselves in a position to move the football. And of course, hindsight being 2020, we all would like to have taken that play back and done something else on that fourth down call. But I was saying on Monday when I kind of did the recap of that, when you're on the 1 yard line or half yard line or wherever that ball placement was, if you can't line up, two tight ends and I back football and run power like they did, then you're going to have a hard time anywhere on the field in short yardage, because that was a matter of Louisville just blew them off the ball and Henderson just never had a shot to really do anything.
Yeah. And I think that I think you're right about that. And the problem for IU is that their offensive line is improved this year. It's much better than it was last year. They didn't give up a sack against Louisville. They were the only Big Ten team not to give up a sack last week, but they're not where they want to be yet, right? I think that's fair to say. They're much better. They're not a great line yet. And so I think it's fair that some people wanted to see at least a little bit of misdirection, maybe even a two-back set, just to kind of give Louisville a little bit of a different look rather than running something that was so slow developing, especially because they'd been struggling in short yardage situations a lot of the day. So, and they have all of these weapons. I think that is Indiana's strongest kind of part of their team right now is the skill positions. They have a lot of weapons at those positions, some things you can do something with. And Taven Jackson has some athleticism himself. So maybe you run some kind of quarterback option play or even just a straight sneak. He's a pretty good athlete himself. So I can see where fans are coming from, but I think Tom Allen also said exactly what you said, which is, hey, we got to get that. It's 6 inches. Go get the ball across the line. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, when I was coaching, I always had a play that I felt, and my kids always knew what it was going to be because it was established well back in camp, that this is a play when it's third and 3, 4, 5 or less, and we're going to run the football. This is the play that we're going to run, and there's no excuses for it if we don't get it, because that was kind of the mentality that you have to get. Now, for Indiana, when you think about it, not just this year, but they haven't been in those situations as an offense very much over the last few years.
Yeah.
There have been times, but again, it's water under the bridge. They didn't get it, so therefore you're moving on. What did you think of Taven's play on Saturday against Louisville?
I thought it was pretty good, especially considering his first start as kind of the full-time anointed starter. He made plays down the field. He made throws. I thought his pocket presence was really, really good. Louisville was able to get a fair amount of pressure on him, but we heard they didn't have any sacks. And part of that is Taven. There were a couple times where there was a free rusher at him, and he was just able to sidestep, keep his eyes down the field, and make a throw, which is what you want to see from your quarterback at that level. I do think that he has an issue where he lets the ball sail on him a little bit at times. If he's going to miss, he's going to miss high. And we've seen that in 2 straight games now. We saw it against Louisville where he threw an interception because he hit the receiver in the hands, but the pass was over the receiver's head and he had to go jump for it and it hit his hands. And then if the pass is high, it hits your hands, it's going to bounce to a defender probably. And that's what happened. So that's something, and it's almost encouraging that all of his misses are in one direction because that means it's mechanical and you can fix it, right? Whereas if you're missing all over the place, that speaks to a bigger problem with accuracy. But I liked what I saw from him. I think he led the team well. I think he helped lead the response after that difficult first half. And I want to see more. I want to see them open the playbook for him and give him a chance to go make some plays.
Yeah, there's no question he's a playmaker, and I think the sailing part, like you were referencing there, a lot of that was, I thought, nerves, especially in that first half of football where he was having that issue where he wasn't really following through or stepping into his throws. It was kind of, in some cases, wishing and hoping it went the right way rather than his confidence of just stepping up there and let her rip. But this will be another start for him, another growth game for him. After this, we're pretty much going to have a pretty good picture of what Indiana is heading into the Big Ten play. You got Akron coming in here on Saturday night, 7:30 kickoff, and on the BTN network. Um, Hoosiers are a 17-point favorite, so people in Vegas think they've got a pretty good chance of winning this one. What's your kind of assessment of the Akron Zips?
Yeah, I mean they are a program that has, even for a MAC team, struggled. I think it's fair to say they've had a couple 2-10 seasons over the last few years, but they have a new coach in there now. I think Joe Moorhead is in his second year, former Mississippi State head coach, really well respected offensive coordinator for a lot of years at Penn State. And so I think that he is going to scheme some stuff up for this Indiana defense. I don't think they're going to try to go strength on strength against Indiana. They're going to try to scheme some things up and see if they can make some plays. They're not a bad team. They're not at least in terms of the MAC and its level of play. I don't think they're a bad team. I think they can play with Indiana a little bit. I think Indiana should win the game. Let's put it that way. I think Indiana should win the game. If you go out there flat, though, like you did against Louisville, this team will beat. It is not one of those things like against Indiana State where you can pretty much assume you're going to walk over these guys. You better go out there and be ready, because if you don't, you're going to be 1-3 faster than you thought.
Yeah, no question. Their defense is very stout. I mean, they're kind of like Indiana in that way. Their defense is probably ahead of their offensive output at this point. I believe it was 14-3 against Kentucky this past weekend. Now, Kentucky pulled away in the second half and beat them handedly, but it was a first half, struggle for Kentucky because Akron's defense, again, is playing at that top level. Looking at it from this perspective, Indiana wins Saturday against Akron if.
I think if they can continue to grow on offense, I think they go out there and win the game. I think that if you continue to give Taven more pieces of the playbook that he can execute. And then if he goes out there and makes plays, I think you're going to be okay. I like Akron's defense. I think the only way they win this game is if they go out there and probably turn Indiana over 3 or 4 times, which they could do, right? And so if you see more growth in this Indiana team, if you see Taven protecting the ball, making the right reads, making good throws, I think Indiana will win this game as long as they don't put the ball in harm's way. Because the problem for Akron is that they struggle on offense fairly significantly. I know Joe Moorhead is a good offensive mind, and we just talked about that, but they're averaging 1.6 yards per carry. It's not been good on offense for them so far this year. So if they're going to win this game, it's going to be because they get some defensive big plays on defense. And so if Indiana can avoid those, keep growing on offense, take another step forward, I think you have to feel pretty good.
Yeah, and the flip side would be if Indiana will lose this game, and what's your thoughts there? What would lead to an IU loss against a team like Akron?
Yeah, I think it's the same kind of thing where if IU is erratic on offense, if they come out like they did against Louisville and just seem like they're not being aggressive on offense, because there would be a tendency in this game to kind of sit back and say, hey, let's just not make any mistakes. Let's let our defense win this one, and that would be okay, I guess. But I want to see them take some steps forward, right? I want to see. I don't want to see them playing not to lose against a MAC team. I want to see them go out and let Taven Jackson make some plays. And so the problem with that is that if they let him do that, which I think they should for his growth, if he's erratic, if he sails the ball because of nerves again, if he throws a few interceptions, if IU puts the ball on the ground, then you're talking about what could turn into a kind of a field position game, and Akron keeps it close and one-score game in the fourth quarter, and they feel like they have a chance at the end. So that's the path for the Zips in this one.
Well, that's Dylan Sinn from the Journal Gazette. He just broke it down there. He told you how they're going to win, and if they don't watch it, how they'll lose it on Saturday evening down in Bloomington on the BTN Network. 7:30 kickoff for the Hoosiers and the Akron Zips. Dylan, appreciate you joining me here this evening, and get you back on at another time.
Absolutely, Shannon. Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Welcome back to the Hoosier Football Tailgate here on the Believe It Network. I am the coach, Shannon Griffith, and want to thank again Dylan Sinn for giving his insights into this game coming Saturday. I think he's well versed in all things IU football and has a firm grasp of the Big Ten, and really appreciate his work that he does for the Journal Gazette. But let's take a little look here now. Let's step over into the statistical things that we're going to see from this Akron football team, and kind of what I did this week. We're going to look at offense and offense together in this stat breakdown. As you can see, first here, Indiana and Akron. Boy, I tell you, pretty similar in the scoring offense, 19.3 and 16 points. As you look at the offense there, not too many yards separate their yards per game. One interception on the year for Indiana, and 2 for Akron Zips offense. Like I said, a little bit later, I'm going to show you some of their Kentucky game, a game that they played pretty hard in. We're down, I think, at halftime, only 14-3, and Kentucky kind of blew it open in the second half. But looking at these offense right now, third down conversions, Indiana's done quite well with that, 50%. And it's kind of a head scratcher for me because with their lack of rushing the football, I think they find themselves in some more third and longs than they do third and mediums. I haven't really gotten into depth on how many of those are. I'm going to have to check that out. But 50% there. Akron's at a low 34%. As you can tell, that's where I think their efficiency on first and second down has not been up to snuff for Coach Moorhead, who is the Akron Zips head coach, former Penn State offensive coordinator, and the head coach at Mississippi State. So he knows a lot of football. He is their offensive coordinator for them as well. Looking at some of their top players, we'll come back to that in a second here, because I really want to go to the defensive things here first. Akron's defense and Indiana's defense, and you're going to see a lot of similarities here. Akron's giving about 27 points a game, but you can see rushing, they've done pretty well in the rush defense compartment. Now, they've given up some passing yards at 253 yards a game and over 344 5 yards really in total offense. Indiana at 298. Third down efficiency, both are coming in the low 30s. That's pretty good. And then on fourth down, there's really not a lot there to say one way or the other in terms of opportunities, but teams have been 50% against them on fourth down when they have chosen to go for it. But as you can see, Akron has a formidable defense that the Hoosiers are going to take on Saturday, and they're going to have their hands full with the Zips defensively on Saturday. Now we want to take a little bit a look here between who Indiana's going to be facing here on Saturday. The quarterback is DJ Irons. He's 6'4", 220. He's completing about 65% of his passes. Big, strong kid, can run the football, so the Indiana will have to make an account for him in their offense, because he will throw it in design or run it in design runs as well on dropbacks, pull it down and run it, because he's pretty gifted athlete in that way. The running back, Lorenzo Lingard, but he's also their top receiver. So this kid does a little bit of both when it comes to their offense. way of doing things. He'll line up in the backfield. He'll line up in the slot. He's kind of a little bit about like Jalen in that regard. So they utilize his abilities. I wouldn't say he's a burner, but he's somebody that IU is going to have to take account of. As is Drake Anderson, the running back. He's a little bit more of their true running back. Doesn't have breakaway speed, but he does have a good job of pounding it up in there and getting some of the tough yards. So those two kids are somebody that IU is going to have to be uh, on point with, as was the two wide receivers, Daniel George and Josiah Gathings. These two young men are their primary receiving targets. Not that they've had a ton of explosive plays. They're kind of like IU in that category. Offensively, they've just not had those explosive plays. But when they do get those opportunities, these two cats can get it and they can do it well. So you got to be aware of them on the field. So offensively speaking, pretty good overall. Their offensive line, okay, not great. A little bit like IU in the sense that they've got some new faces up front there, but again, a good enough offense in what they do and their spread attack will keep IU honest on Saturday. Leading tackler, Brian McCoy, linebacker, number 40, their middle linebacker. He is their leading tackler on the season. He is a very good football player. Right now, he has 25 total tackles. 9 of those are solos, 2 tackle for losses, and he has 1 actual fumble recovery on the year. He is a good football player. Plays with a high motor, downhill type of linebacker. Really good football player, gets after it. The other one is their D lineman, Terry Jones, 6'3", 300 pounder. Pretty decent player, 10 tackles on the year, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack on the year, and a quarterback. Curry, he does pretty good against the run game, as he's a pretty good occupier of space, as you would say. Then not only their outside linebacker, walk up in 6'3", 230, comes off that end. He is their leading sack leader on the year with 3 of those. He also has 4 tackle for losses, 8 total tackles, and he's one of their more superb athletes out there that he comes off that edge pretty good and gets after it, and he can cause some Indiana some fits there. So they're going to have to be aware of him in the sense that they cannot lose sight of him on the field, because he's one of those guys that can make a big play coming off that edge. So Indiana's going to have to be aware of him and where he's at all times. But their defense, again, like I said, good defense, sound. They got some really good players and some players that are probably capable of playing the Big Ten, but something just didn't jive and they weren't taken at the Big Ten level. So they're playing in the MAC and doing good things there for them as it pertains to Akron and their overall ability. We're going to switch over to some video here, and we're going to take a look at their offense. But they're gonna, let's see if this is all set up. Okay, good. Again, like I said, Coach Moorhead is their play caller, offensive coordinator, tons of experience, a really good offensive mind, and his success at Penn State is pretty darn good. And then here we go against Kentucky. Kentucky, kind of a similar defense to IU, that 3 down and then the 4 linebackers. Here's a situation where their quarterback Irons is looking to make a quick step throw, 3-step drop type of passing route, and gets outside. But their linebacker here stays home, makes the right read, comes up, forces the ball to be thrown away, and you get a 2nd and 10 setup for them here in this ball game. Now, 3rd down for them has, like I said, has been a struggle. They're about 30 some odd percent there. Here's a Kentucky putting some pressure on them, bringing 5, gonna play some zone. This is they're running a kind of like a little bit of a what we call a sneak screen, and as long as he's in this vicinity of the line of scrimmage, the wideouts out here can make the block. But what they're trying to do here, get him as a lead blocker and get this cat to catch the ball here, and then of course circle the defense. But Kentucky plays this well. Their corner does. It comes from behind, makes the play, and actual for a loss there. So a really good play there for them. This is kind of the end zone look from it. Nothing overly uh, insightful there. Just a good overall play by their defense. We're gonna move on to the next play here. Little bunch set. They will bunch it up. This is a design quarterback draw. They can throw it out here on a kind of RPO here to the left, and then quarterback decides to take off and run it. And again, good enough player where he can get the job done and get those tough yards at times using his size. They'll will go with a speed tempo, something IU will have to be aware of on the night. Again, heading into a bunch set, kind of doing the tackle wrap play. Another good run for them by the Anderson kid. Decent little play there on the wrap play. And see what they did here. You know, Kentucky is pretty strong up front. They're a pretty physical defense. Does pretty good on the night. Again, they only surrendered 3 points on the game. Here's another kind of a uh, tight set, and they decided to call a timeout real quick. And so let's see if we can get another play here. Sometimes off these TV copies, they can be a little bit daunting getting stuff off uh, and trimming it down and stuff. So appreciate you bearing with me. Again, here's another like a bunch set in tight, really trying to create, condense the defense. Ducky comes up, they're going to run a little bit of a kind of what I call a naked boot screen again type of setup. And wide receiver out there, he's got to be better. Go out and attack that guy. He gets his guy blown up. And defensive by Kentucky was really good on Saturday night. We're going to switch over here to some defense now, and watch some of Kentucky's offense against Akron's defense. Kentucky ran a middle screen on their first play. They do a great job taking advantage of Akron's aggressiveness coming right out of the block. They do a good job of funneling away, and they get a really big play here down the field. Good job by the wide receivers blocking. Got a pancake down there at the bottom. Very nicely done there. Some good perimeter blocking, something that IU can continue to do better. Here's the end zone view of it. Again, you can see there's a lot of green grass there. Here comes the pancake there by number 9. Look at that. That's a thing of beauty. When you get those type of plays down the field and you got wideouts doing that type of job, that makes things a lot easier for your offense. Kentucky was a little bit disarrayed in that first drive as they kind of took a penalty. Here's again condensing. This is kind of like an RPO. They could run like a power play back here to the boundary, or the quarterback can throw the quick screen at the top. He chose to throw the quick screen at the top. This was pretty well defended by Akron. Lineman here, number 5. You can see him run there, man. He's pretty good big boy as well up front for them. And Lama is his name. Big boy making some plays in space. But again, Kentucky took this opening drive and I believe went down and scored here. Again, two back, running basic and inside zone concept here. And again, just they're really overrunning their blocks, not getting their head in front, and Akron just eating them up. So, like I said, you can't take this defense lightly. They will cause problems for you if you don't come off the ball with some aggressiveness and block your assignments. Here they're coming with pressure. This is that McCoy kid coming on the blitz here. Just the 5-man dropping and making it a 4-man with the drop of their end McNully. And then McCoy coming back and getting himself back in on the play there shows his athleticism and his enthusiasm to make plays, So he got cut, which linebackers don't like to get cut, but he got himself back up and made the play. Here's a 1st and 10 now for Kentucky. They kind of get into a wing set up, unbalanced up top. This is kind of a misdirectional speed sweep here. Actually, a pass when they shuffle it underneath. And a big 11, 12-yard gain there for Kentucky on that particular play. Get it down in here inside the 10. Got to get points on the board. Got to score. Here's kind of the condensation of their offense. They're going to run a little bit of a naked boot. Nice play call here. And again, if Indiana feels like this is a type of play that fits their offense, they could see this on Saturday as well as they get into the end zone there on a nice pitch and catch on a nice opening drive to get themselves 7 points out of that opening drive there against Akron. So you saw both sides of the ball there. Offensively, they struggled against Kentucky to move the football. They weren't overly in sync through much of the night, really didn't get much of anything. But their defense can play very stubborn and very tough, and IU's going to have to make sure that they get themselves in a position on Saturday to not give them any hope. That's the worst thing they could do is give this team hope, because if they do that, then they're going to be in for a dogfight on Saturday against them. Now we want to look over here at what I call Griff's 5 keys to victory. Number 1, I think they've got to score 30 points on the night, hold Akron to about 14. This is the type of game you want to take control early and get on top and don't look back. If they do not come out and establish themselves on both sides of the ball, they'll give Akron hope, and that's the worst thing they could do, because if they give them any hope, Akron is going to put themselves in a position to try to win a football game. Okay, let's see. Second one here, rush for 150 yards, throw for 300. Now, they've been close to this goal. They have not hit it yet. But if they can get another 75 to 80 yards on what they're averaging right now and throw for that 300-plus yards, you're at 450 yards. What does that all mean? That means explosive plays. That means points. That's what they're lacking offensively right now, is those big explosive plays that you've got to have to be a good offense. If you can't get those explosive plays, it's just a tough day in the office when you can't do that. Their defense has got to hold Akron to 275 yards of total offense. I don't think that's an unreasonable goal, and I think they can be able to do that if they play their assignments, play hard, good defense like they did in the second half. That's the thing about IU this week. You can't play a half of football. You got to play 60 minutes and put 2 halves together. No turnovers. Again, get takeaways on the defense, but don't put the ball on the ground. And then, of course, win the kicking game, the hidden yardage. That's going to be the key component and the 5 things that I think are going to be important for IU this Saturday down at Bloomington. Here's kind of a look at the Big Ten schedule for this next week. As you can see, Wisconsin and Purdue play tomorrow night. That's a Fox Sports 1 game. And then you got Maryland, Michigan State. La Tech, Nebraska. Some teams in the Big Ten are playing some conference games. Some are not. They're jumping outside. And then, of course, you see next week with IU moving on down to Maryland to play them. I know that everybody's been aware of the situation up at Michigan State. Mel Tucker is no longer going to be the head coach there for some of the things that happen outside of the game. But changed a little bit of the dynamic. But as you can see Saturday with this Akron team, anytime you play a MAC team, they're going to come in and give you your best, especially if they think they can beat you. And there's nothing that's IU's put on tape in some regards that doesn't think that Akron doesn't think they can beat them. And I think that's why you can't give them any hope. There's no question that IU has better personnel than Akron does. But they're going to have to show it on Saturday. Offense, defense, kicking game. Don't give them any hope. They'll control the game and get the big W, go to 2-2 and get themselves ready to go play Maryland. They give Akron hope, and they're going to be in a dogfight on Saturday night, and that's not what they want to do. They do not want to get into a dogfight with Akron on Saturday. They need to control the game from start to finish and get it done and move on to the next one. Well, I want to thank you for joining us here tonight here on the Hoosier Football Tailgate preview of the Akron game here Saturday night, 7:30. You can find it on the Big Ten Network or through the Fox Sports News app as well. Again, thanks to BetOnline AG coming on board. Remember that discount, 50% off welcome bonus there. Believe, BLEAV. Bet online where the game starts. Thanks to Dylan Sinn from the Journal Gazette for joining me here tonight. I appreciate his expertise and everything. Most importantly, and most of all, thank you for joining us here on the Hoosier Football Tailgate. I am the coach, Shannon Griffith. We'll catch you next time here on the Hoosier Football Tailgate on the Believe Network. Good night, everybody.